Welcome to Short Scale Modelling. This is part 5 of Bandi Star Wars Boba Fett. Scale is 1 to 12. In this part I'm going to be concentrating on the arms, getting them built up and placed onto the model. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. Starting off with these pouches that hang from the waist. It's a fairly simple construction and they're painted in Homebrew 87 steel grey. The back pieces should be easy to fit. It only goes on one way, and it has a slight bend at the top for where the bracket sits into it. But the location pins and points for it, they're different sizes, so it will only go in one way. So if it doesn't fit, don't force it. Just maneuver it or turn it around, and it should go in. The waistband gets connected to this, and that's painted in RC 403 Crimson Lake. Now you want to get this fit squarely onto the pouch, because the contact point on the waistband actually acts as the contact point onto the model itself. So make sure it's nice and straight. The next part to be made up is the gun holster. Now I'm placing in the bandi or the clip that holds the weapon in place, but don't cement this because you will have to remove it later on if you're displaying it with the weapon holstered. I am painting this in Humbrol's 91 black green. So as I said, don't cement the clip. I mean, you can just leave off at this point if you're not if you are displaying the gun inside the holster. But I wasn't sure at this point how I was going to display it, so I placed it in. And once they're assembled, it's just a matter of pushing it onto its location point to finish off the waistband. And then next to get clipped on is the holster. The location point is only at the top of this. It should be slightly away from the leg, so there's a gap between. And now moving on to the arms. The arms are basically the same on each side. There's a couple of small differences, which I'll go into, but essentially I'll just show you making up one arm. And these arms are made up practically the same as the legs and the arms on the Han Solo build. I do apologise for the out of focus there. I didn't realise the camera had popped out of focus. The joints for these are very similar, but they can be a little bit technical as well, just because of the shape of them. It'll be essential that you look at the instructions and look at the direction, the way the ball joints are going to be sitting. And like with the other parts, it's taken quite a lot of pressure to close these up. So in the end, I put them in between my locking tweezers and just pressed down. That helped close the area up. I wish I'd thought that before. That way, if you haven't got enough grip in your hand, some people don't, having something like that may help you to close them up. So next we have the shoulder guard going on. That just clips onto the armor pad, which then of course will go on top of the shoulder joint. Now you don't want to place any cement on this, you want it free moving, because when you start moving the arms, once the arms are on, these pads have to move with the arm. Next is the part of the forearm that holds all the circuitry and part of the armor. First of all, it's the ball joints that I'm placing in. Again, it's a fairly straightforward process. It should be easy enough to line up. Just make sure that the socket joint for the housing is squarely in, then it will close up okay. Next is to place on the armaments for this part, and these are painted in Tamiya's XF56 metallic grey. Each one again has its own location points, and they should just slide on. One part of this will sit flush and the other part rises up on the unit. The next part I recommend not placing on. I did at this point, but I didn't realise I was going to run into trouble. It's a little ducting pipe that will go from this mechanism part into the arm. But if you want movement, this will stop its movement. So I personally wouldn't put it on. Obviously, it's the builder's choice. In the end, I took mine off broke it, then placed it on so it wasn't touching both areas to stop the movement. But I'll go into that in a little bit. So in the meantime, I'm just making up the elbow joint. Now, will say one thing about these Bandi kits. They really have thought about how the arm moves. Not only have you got the up and down motion of an arm, you've got the rotation as well. So there's a lot of different little joints you have to make up to fit. Try and get them all free moving, again, if you want the full motion of the arm. Now all the main components are made up, it's time to put the arm together. So I'm just placing in the elbow joint. Again, these can be a little bit tricky if you haven't paid attention how the ball sockets and that go, but they should just push in and click in a position. So this is where I realised that there was a problem with this little connecting pipe here. Where my thumb is, there's a little location hole for it to sit into, and one that was quite difficult to fit in anyway, and two, this is when I realised if this is connected, I will not get the movement required for the full movement of the arm. So as I'm placing it in to see how it would look, there's not enough play and give in this particular part for that movement. Hence why I've said it's better not to put it in or cut it in and have the illusion that it's connected to both parts of the arm. It makes it quite difficult to get this joint fitted because of this. So I snapped it into, just cut it off, removed the part, then I was able to get the part of the forearm on easily enough. Now, as I said, the opposite arm is made up very similar. Apart from the forearm, I had the mechanism. Each arm has a different type of things to put on. So for the armaments, levers, and things like that. But essentially, it's all the same sort of construction, but they are just different parts. And an example of that is there's a small little missile that goes on the arm. And this was also painted slightly different as well. For the main part, I used Tamiya's XS56 metallic grey in keeping with the other parts, but I also added Humbrol 60 Scarlet on the tip of the weapon. Now, that's not necessarily the correct colour, but I like the contrast. There's a series of cables, and I used the XF56 metallic grey by Tamiya once more on this part. It's just like a coil of wire with connectors at the end. There's also strips of material run down from these cables, and I painted them in Humbrol 103 cream. Interestingly, there's a back piece to this coil as well, so both sections have to be painted, but they were painted in the same colouring. Onto the cloak. Now, the main colour is a Humbrol 249 RLL 79 Sheer Sandlob, I think that's how you pronounce it. I do apologise if that's not how you pronounce it. So that's the base colour. Then I used the cream colour, the 103 cream, to highlight on the cloak and put markings on it. And I'm using the same technique I did with the chipping, using my stiffen brush and just marking the cloak as I go along, putting stripes down it with the lighter colour. I'm also using the 103 cream to paint around the cuff part of the shoulder. And while it's drying, I can put the coils together. The two halves fit quite nicely. The lip at the top of it will act as its location point to go onto the model. So careful of your placement here. Like the holster, the bracket just sticks up slightly through a little gap. And I'm taking the opportunity now just to touch up any bits of paintwork. So I'm going back to the arm, and I'm now replacing the little duct that I snapped off deliberately and placing that on. So I'm putting it first in its proper location point. If I didn't do this, I would have had to fill it. So I did that, then just snipped off the excess and then arched it down to the lower part of the arm. It's not exactly the way it goes, but as I said, either that or I wouldn't have got the full movement of the arm. So, excuse me, I'm just resetting my camera before I place on the arms. So before I place them on, I should have said the coil goes on first, and this is what I'm doing at the moment. First of all, just a little bit of cement, and then the coil fits in over the shoulder area. And then to finish up for this part of the video, I'm just going to be pushing on the arms. They just get slotted into the sockets, and then you can start seeing the full movement of the arm. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you go and check out the channel for my other videos. If you subscribe to the channel, please do so. Make sure you hit the notification bell, that way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build but all my other builds as well, of course. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.